checking on sound.
Now we're good.
So hopefully you can hear me. Again, this is Joe Malash. I'm the proud superintendent of the Cherry Hill Public School District. I'm joined today for the superintendent's online lunch by the Chief of Police, Chief Bud Monahan. Chief is here with us this morning. So first of all, I'd like to welcome all of you. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have some time to spend as we go through and talk about some pertinent issues and some of the things that are going on in the Cherry Hill Public Schools. If you would like to participate in the discussion, if you have questions, you can send them to us in two ways. One, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, there's a place for live chat. You can certainly submit questions that way through the live chat, or you can email them directly to our Public Information Office, and the address for that is publicinfo@chclc.org. Joining the Chief and I here in my office today are Mr. Don Bard, our Director of Support Operations, and Mrs. Barbara Wilson, our Public Information Officer. Mrs. Wilson is monitoring the live chat. She's also monitoring the email. So if you have additional questions, please send them in. And again, whether you're at home or in your office, hopefully you're enjoying your lunch. Chief and I here have some tomatoes and some broccoli, which I will contend is more my lunch than the Chief's lunch. We will not be eating during the course of the discussion, but I do want you to feel free to eat as we go through and talk. So I asked the Chief to join us today just so we can do a follow-up on some of the activities that have occurred recently. Everyone is aware, Chief, of what occurred at Beck Middle School last week. Last Wednesday, we had a phone call that came into the school, and the school was placed on lockdown. It's a concerning incident that took place for everyone. Thankfully, with your leadership and the men and women of the Cherry Hill Police Department and the staff and the students within the school, everybody did what they were supposed to do. We just want to kind of talk through what that process looks like. And folks, if you're on your computer online at the district website, you can also find where we list the information about what secured environments are. And it goes through the three types of secured environments that we have: lockouts, shelter in place, or lockdown. Last Wednesday at Beck Middle School, we did go into a lockdown. So Chief, do you want to talk a little bit about how did Cherry Hill Police become involved, and then what was the process that we went through?
Sure, and thank you for having me here today. The Cherry Hill Police Department becomes involved in situations like these once we receive a notification from the school. And the school district and the school itself followed all of the proper protocols in notifying the police department about this specific incident. And it's an approach or a response that we detail uniformed police officers to the scene, and we'll also, depending upon the type of threat, if a threat is made, we'll dispatch detectives as well. And the purpose is to try and get as much information as we can to determine what our next course of action would be, what type of actions will take place in the school. The school was placed on a lockdown because of the type of threat that was received, and then we elevate our response by dispatching additional units to the scene. And then we are in constant communication at a command post with school officials, the principal, vice principal, yourself with this incident, director of security for the schools, the administrative staff in the schools. We bring in the school custodian, and there's a lot of moving parts associated with a situation such as this. Sometimes with a lockdown, we can determine that either the threat is not existent or not credible sooner rather than later sometimes, and we can lift the lockdown. But in other cases, such as the one most recently with Beck, we had to follow through every avenue to ensure the safety of not just the students but also the staff and everyone that was inside of the school.
Excellent. And Chief, it is one of the things, when we go into lockdown, and these are things that we practice in all of our schools. So every month we do two types of drills in each one of our schools. We do a fire drill, which is traditional, and all of us as we grew up, we all went through fire drills. And it used to be 2 fire drills a month, and then a number of years ago, a transition, we do 1 fire drill a month. We do some sort of security drill each month. So it is something that we practice. We want everybody to be prepared. Again, safety and security of our children, safety and security of our staff, it's the primary responsibility that we have. Under your leadership, I think one of the advantages when we had the situation at Beck last week is that your men and women, the men and women of the department, they do what you refer to as directed patrols, where they stop by and visit the schools, where they build relationships, so that the police officers have relationship with the students and with the staff in the building. It's concerning times. It's stressful times for you folks at home. It's stressful times for us, and it's certainly a stressful times for law enforcement as it is occurring. Again, our primary responsibility at that time is what's going on site. In terms of what's taking place. Now, there are challenges in situations like this, right? Sure. Because in our world today, everybody carries at least 1 cell phone, if not 2 cell phones. Information travels very, very quickly. One of the challenges with the travel of information is it's not always accurate. Right? There are concerns that were there. In the incident at Beck, there were TV cameras, right? The helicopter was overhead. Children are texting because they're concerned. Parents are texting their children. Folks are starting to try to respond, to the school because they're worried about their children, which is certainly understandable. What tips do you have? What suggestions do we have for the families, for the community?
A few tips. First and foremost, just because it's on Facebook or you read it online doesn't necessarily mean it's true. That's something to really pay attention to.
Right.
The news media at times might get information from your own personal Facebook accounts to where they're starting to now come to the scene. And they'll put it on before either we or the schools even have a chance to make any type of notification, even internally. We're still responding and deciding how we're going to either elevate or decrease our response level, and the news media already has it on. Parents, and I touched on this with some of our conversations with parents at the scene at Beck, and we also discussed it with local media as well. First and foremost, I want to express the department's gratitude for how the parents of the Beck students reacted.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's extremely stressful for the parents, it's stressful for the children, and the police officers, as well as all the staff inside of the school. And it's tough not to want to go run and grab your child.
Right.
Many of us are parents, and I'm a parent myself, and I understand that need or want to go grab your child. But unfortunately, we cannot allow that, and the people converging at the scene can block roadways. When I arrived at Beck, I had to park in the middle of the street because both shoulders were already full of vehicles from parents that were responding to the scene. And it makes our response difficult, and our ability to get other services into that location, it makes it a problem for us. And we need to dedicate 100% of our resources, 100% of our efforts into that incident itself. And what happens is, if we then have to reallocate some of our resources, our staffing, to other locations throughout the outside of the school for crowd control, it then pulls necessary resources outside of what we're trying to focus on.
Right.
So as difficult as it is, please don't respond directly to a school if we have one of these situations again. We will designate certain areas for parents as well as media to respond to. And at those locations, we'll dispatch an officer. We all have our individual roles in our organization and when we respond to these types of situations. So we will dispatch officers to a predetermined location so that they can keep parents informed. Another tip for parents, because so many children have cell phones, the students are texting their parents some of the things that are going on inside of the school. And if you look at our own Facebook, we are not posting movements or things that we're doing inside of that school. And we're not doing that for a reason. Because if it is a real credible threat, we might have to take some type of tactical option inside of that school where we might relocate children to one end of the school because we need to clear another area of the school. And what we found was students are texting their parents, and then their parents are then in turn posting information on Facebook. The police are coming into the classrooms and moving the children to the gym. In this situation, we were moving the children to the gym for a reason, and we didn't necessarily want that information out at that time. So that's just something to be mindful of. If your child sends you a text message with information as far as what we are doing tactically within that school, please do not post it on social media because you might be doing more harm than good and having a negative impact on our ability to actually control and mitigate the problem.
Right. Excellent, Chief. So one of the things that, and families and community, that we ask you to do as the information is going to be available, we as the school district are going to post it on our official sites. We're going to post it on our website and we get information out. We're going to tweet information out as it becomes available. In the incident that took place last Wednesday at Beck, I actually tweeted some information out and put videos out to go through. Now, any information that we release officially has been vetted and approved by the police department. Again, the relationship that we have, and we are incredibly lucky because of the community in which we live and where our children are being educated, have the relationship that we have with the chief and with the mayor and with the fire department and with the men and women who support us and provide these services to the community. And as we go through, if information is being released, we've received permission from the police to release that information. Safety and security, that's our primary responsibility. And as the chief said, as chief and I went around and we were able to talk to some of the parents who were outside and then posted information and asked people not to respond to school, not to come up, that the fastest way for us to be able to get the children home and children reunited with their parents was on the school buses. Now, I've been at Beck Middle School out on Cropville Road a number of times at dismissal, and I will say that last Wednesday was probably one of the fastest and most efficient dismissals of school because the kids literally did get on the bus and folks weren't lining up in the driveway.
Can I add one thing to what you just said? The superintendent brings up a good point, and people might not understand what happens in these types of situations. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a school threat situation. It can be something as simple as a weather event.
Right.
We operate under a unified command, and we bring the key decision holders into either the command post or some facility close by, so that we have all the key decision makers in one area. And like the superintendent said, monitor the school, the website and their Facebook pages, because the information that they're putting out, they're working with us, and we're vetting the information and the communication so that we can then continue focusing on what we need to do. The mayor's office is involved. Council is aware. We work with the fire department if it's needed in any type of situation. So when we're sitting down and we're addressing these types of issues, we do it together.
Right.
And it is because of the relationships that we've all developed that allow us to effectively deal with anything that arises, from a weather event to a situation where a threat is made to a school.
Right, absolutely. And again, the men and women from your department, the folks that work in the school, us, we've got children, right? These are parents. These are parents, that when they're not working, then they're coaching or they're involved in the community to go through. So one of the things that we do as a follow-up when incidents like this take place is we do a debrief. We do that in a number of different manners. So at the school level, it actually started that afternoon. So we sat down, I sat down with the assistant superintendent and the leadership team and the administrators at the school following a full faculty meeting. We provide opportunity for the faculty and for the staff to provide input. I know from our discussions, you go back with your folks and you have those discussions, debrief. We then discuss it at district level. On Tuesday this week, I had the opportunity to speak with the zone PTA. And in Cherry Hill, for those of you that don't know, we have a zone PTA, which is a district level organization, and it represents the 19 PTAs that exist in our district from the 18 schools as well as the special ed PTA, and have a chance from the parents and community members to say, did you think about this or what about this? But a review of the process and always going back over to make sure that we are doing the best that we possibly can always comes through. And again, it's one of the things that we benefit, Chief, from our relationship is to be able to talk. And you have the honest discussion and say, I need your guys to do this, or I need your teachers to do, or I need the students to do, or I need you to remind parents. It's one of the benefits to go through. And community members and parents, one of the things that we always agree on, the chief and again, all the other folks that are here, safety and security of the kids is the primary thing. We believe that, we feel that, we make decisions based on that. Sometimes that makes it challenging with the expediency that information can flow out from us, but that's our foundation and the belief that's at our forefront.
No, I agree, and we do the internal critiques, and then we'll sit down and debrief collectively to see what we did right, what we could do better,
right.
And where we can learn and grow from each individual incident. I can tell you, the incident at Beck was handled, in our opinion, very, very well, almost near perfect, from a school response level, from a police response level, and from a parent's response level.
Absolutely.
The parents, even at the end of the day, you touched on dismissal. And when we went out and spoke to the parents, they wanted to just run up and grab their kids, and they listened to us,
yes.
Which was extremely important, and they understood the reason why we couldn't let them do that. And I know I said it when we first got on, I can't thank the parents enough for everything they did that day, because you contributed to the safety of your children by how you acted and how you reacted to that situation. So we appreciate it, from the Cherry Hill Police's point of view.
Absolutely. Well, Chief, we're very glad. Chief, while you're here, there is one other thing that I want to touch on, because it crosses the line between incidents that we deal with in school and then unfortunately law enforcement comes in. So down to our elementary schools, especially in our middle schools and certainly in our high schools, the majority of our children carry cell phones. Right? So as we grew up, we didn't have the challenges that were associated with cell phones. We didn't have the challenges that were associated with being able to make calls. And honestly, I'm not sure how many of the kids use cell phones to make telephone calls, but to text or to send images, the cameras that are here. We continue to run into situations where children are taking inappropriate pictures of themselves and then sharing them. with other kids. So just, if you can, Chief, just talk a little bit about what that process looks like. And parents, I'm going to start this before the Chief goes into it, just to say, please, at home, I implore all of you to have the conversation tonight. Tell your children, we don't take naked pictures of ourselves. We don't take naked pictures of ourselves. Start the conversation that way.
Or
So
of
Chief,
others.
or of others. We don't take naked pictures. That's just not what we do. That's not what the phones are for. That's not why we have them. So Chief, could you just talk about when it's brought to our attention, when it's brought to your attention, what happens?
I'll address some other things first. It does start at home, and it starts with the decision to give that child a phone. And it's not just that you're giving the child a phone, you're giving them a very powerful piece of equipment that has capabilities well beyond just making a telephone call. And the issue that comes up is they're below the age of 18. All right, they're minors. So when they do decide, and they do make that decision at times, unfortunately, to take images, pictures that are not appropriate, it falls statutorily into manufacturing of child pornography.
Right.
And then once they decide to send it, it's distributing. So it's a crime. So even if it's the picture of themselves and they send it off, it's problematic because there's no containing it. It starts to go through many other channels.
Right.
And it's a major issue. And it's something that we've seen and that we've had to deal with. We do have to respond, and we have to contact the Camden County Prosecutor's Office, and we do an investigation. The phone would be seized, and it goes through our technology unit. And we have, unfortunately, had to charge students with these types of offenses. So I understand the need and the want to have your child to have a phone, but the conversations need to take place at home as to what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And like I said, that is a very technologically advanced piece of equipment beyond just a telephone. And it's something that if a child decides to do something like that, they're going to put a stain on their, on their record for the rest of their lives that could impact their future, whether at college or in the professional world.
Right.
And it's unfortunate.
So again, folks, please have the conversations at home. Speak with your children. It may be uncomfortable as you start, and we will continue because we do the discussions in school. We bring law enforcement in to speak with the kids in the schools, the administrators, our counselors, talk with the children. Tell your children, we do not take naked pictures of ourselves or of anybody else. Please have the conversations. Please have the discussions.
And we come out to the schools, the Cherry Hill Police Department, in cooperation and partnership with the school district. We send officers out for educational campaigns.
Right.
But it's not enough because at that point the kids already have the phones.
Right.
So please have the conversation. It's definitely important.
Excellent. Folks, just as a reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can submit questions through the live chat, which is in the lower right-hand corner of the screen on YouTube, or you can email questions directly to Mrs. Wilson, who's the Public Information Officer, and the email address is publicinfo, publicinfo, @chclc. You can send those directly in to us. Chief, as we finish up with your little section, and again, as the police chief in Cherry Hill, Chief Monahan has a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of people in town, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before you're on your way?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come here, and again, I can't thank the parents enough for giving us the opportunity to serve them and their children, and how they acted last week. We really truly appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, sir.
Pleasure, kid. The relationship that exists between the school district and the township, as well as with the police department, in many ways is unique here in Cherry Hill. We're incredibly fortunate that we have a leader like Chief Bud Monahan, who is leading our police department, and the dedicated men and women of the department who day in and day out, throughout the night, regardless of the weather, protect us, keep us safe, and provide opportunities for all of us to grow. I'm incredibly thankful for the police department, for the men and women of the fire department, for our EMS services, for what they provide on a regular basis, for where they are. And as Chief mentioned, incredibly grateful and proud of the parents and the students and the faculty and staff of Beck Middle School for the way that they handled the situation that occurred last Wednesday. Again, if you'd like to submit information or questions, you can certainly go through the live chat portion that is on the YouTube channel, or you can email information directly at publicinfo@chclc.org. A couple of things before I go in, and we do have some questions that have been coming through as the Chief and I were having an opportunity to talk, as well as some questions that came through ahead of time. If you haven't been recently, head to the library. Cherry Hill Public Library on Kings Highway. One of the greatest resources in town is our library. Just out, children's event calendar for January, as well as the children's event and the teen event calendars for February. There are always incredible opportunities and activities going on at the library. Go see Laverne Mann, who's the library director, and the staff up there, and 2 special events that are coming up. One big one they're advertising in February, a chocolate bake-off. Chocolate bake-off, Cherry Hill Library. Go on the website, find the information. They are looking for people to bake, adults and children, and even beyond that, they're looking for tasters to come in. So look at the information on the website, but go to the library, find the library. It truly is the center of town. So let's start to go through a couple of the questions that have come in. So first, there was a question that was sent via email that came in prior to today about the amount of money that is spent per student, the average dollar amount that's spent per student in Cherry Hill, and that we appear on the lower end of the state when you look at average dollar expenditures. And the writer that sent this in, you are correct. Cherry Hill does spend considerably less than average per pupil throughout the state. And there are a number of reasons for this. The biggest reason, honestly, comes down to funding. And the way that we are funded as a public school district and from where that money originates. Cherry Hill, unless the funding formula changes dramatically, will continue to spend lower per capita or lower on average than most other school districts. There is a group that has grown out of work from the Board of Education as well as the Zone PTA, which is the Cherry Hill Fair Funding Committee. The Cherry Hill Fair Funding Committee meets on the 4th Thursday of every month here at the Malberg Administration Building beginning at 6 p.m. If you do a search, Cherry Hill Fair Funding Committee, there's also a website. Missy Lang and Chris Benedetto lead the group, and there's a great deal of information about the way that we are funded and the expenditures for our money. I would say that we are an incredible value as a school district because of the outcomes and the opportunities that we're able to provide our children and the level of success that they have after they graduate from our school district. So thank you for the question. Another question that came in via email prior to us going online today is about the protocol for investigating and remediating a suspected mold problem in any of the schools. One of our great fortunes is we've sent a number of our staff members in facilities and buildings and ground to be trained to recognize mold and in the remediation of mold. Our business administrator who joined us during the summer, Mrs. Lynn Sugars, it's also one of her areas of expertise. Mold in buildings and mold in homes, schools, and in the community is always something that we're concerned with. Our staff, and we get notification from instructional staff, from support staff, from custodians, from principals, from parents and community members who ask questions. Is that mold? Is there a stain that's there? But it's regular protocol of the cleaning that goes on in the district, and if there's a concern for mold, we go in, we have it tested, then there's a remediation protocol that's used as well. Again, health and safety of our children is our primary responsibility. It grows out the experience that we have with the police department and the fire department to keep our children safe from things on the outside, but it also deals with the health and the health of the buildings. There are times that we bring folks in to test the air and the air quality within the school as well as outside of the school to do a comparison of what's going on. If you have a specific question or a specific concern, please always start at the building level, contact the building principal, let them know where the concern is, and it will be followed up. Question came in today about the high school police officers and why they are not armed, why they do not carry sidearms while they are at work. It's an interesting question and one that's come up. We have 4 school resource officers who work for the school district. The school resource officers, the position has been employed in Cherry Hill since the early 1980s. At no time have those officers ever been armed. There are other school districts in South Jersey that do have armed police officers, and often it's through a shared services agreement between the township police department and the school district. We are not in a place currently to change that or to arm our officers, but it is a level of discussion and something that always comes through. A recent law was signed, it passed the legislature back in the fall and was signed by the governor that created a new class of police officer, which is referred to as a Special Law Enforcement Officer Class 3. Special Law Enforcement Officers Class 3, the position or the legislation was created in order to provide opportunity for armed police officers to be in schools. There are very specific regulations about that. The Board of Education in Cherry Hill, the Police Department and the Township have not entered into discussion at this point about having those officers work in our district. But currently we are not in a position where our officers are armed, nor in our current status would they be armed. Some questions came in about books and about materials and the use of books and materials in the school district. There are different types of books and materials and supplies that are used throughout the district. There are books that we have children at each grade level that are read by every child, and then there are many more books that are provided for children to read if there is a choice assignment or if there are book clubs that are used. There are classroom libraries that are constructed by teachers at all grade levels for children to select from, for children to be able to have choice books and to read on the outside. There's a basic canon or a basic group of books that we expect all children as they go through the Cherry Hill School District to have experienced, but certainly that does not limit to the reading experiences that we expect children to have. We believe that children should be reading all the time at every level throughout the course of the year. In fact, later on, I have some books I'd like to share and suggestions for you if you do not have a book right now that you are reading. But books go through a vetting process. There's a process that we have to go through for the submission of a new title and in order for the title to be approved by the Board of Education prior to being used as an instructional resource. If you have a specific question about a book that your child is being asked to read or to which your child is being exposed, again, the first place always to have that discussion is at the school level. Speak to your child's teacher. If you have additional questions, speak to the principal. We can then involve the curriculum office, our director of curriculum, Dr. Mahan, assistant superintendent, Dr. Campisi, or I can be involved. Another place always to discuss materials and supplies that are used in our schools is at the C&I meeting, which is a subcommittee of the board. The curriculum and instruction committee of the board meets typically on the first Monday of the month at 7 p.m. in the boardroom at Malvern. There's also a question about movies that have been used. There are movies that are used for instructional purposes at each level in our school district. There are also movies that are put on during free time, whether it's indoor recess or other opportunities that occur depending upon the level throughout the academic year. Again, if you have a specific question about a title or about a film that is being shown or an excerpt of a film that is being shown, I encourage you to start those questions at the building level with the classroom teacher, and then ultimately, if you need to, with the principal. Again, if you have questions, you can certainly submit them through the chat that exists through the YouTube channel, or send them directly through on email, publicinfo@chclc.org. A question that came a little bit earlier this morning was about the early start time, or the start time for the schools, and about the amount of time the children need to sleep in order to be successful in schools. So a number of years ago, through the collective bargaining agreement, the negotiations between the district and the Teachers Association, the new start times were established for each of the schools. The high schools moved from an 8 o'clock start time to a 7:30 a.m. start time. The middle schools moved from an 8:30 a.m. start time to an 8 a.m. start time. And the start time for staff at the elementary level went from 8:45 in the morning to 8:15 in the morning, although the children's academic day at the elementary level did not change. Prior to the extension of the academic day, the length of the day at the high school level was one of the shortest ones in the state. We are an incredibly successful school district. Our children perform very well and continue to perform very well. When there was a high school redesign committee that met and worked with that committee and worked with the board, one of the discussions was about the length of the school day and the academic opportunity that could be provided should the school day be longer. Start times for schools have been hotly contested and hotly debated items over the course of the last few years. There currently is not an active discussion that is going on with the district or within the district about changing the start time. And should that discussion grow or be revisited, certainly would be included as part of the collective bargaining process. One of the things that I would always encourage all of you, and I still have 3 children that are in the high school level, and I have a child who's in college, is to talk to your child and to know your child's sleep patterns. One of the other things that I really encourage you, and it comes back to our discussion about cell phones and how children use the electronic devices, is the amount of time that they spend with electronic devices. What does that screen time look like? What does the screen time look like then prior to bed? When are they shutting the screens off, whether it's a phone or a computer or a tablet or some other device such as that? When they're doing their homework, when they're doing their schoolwork, what other opportunities are provided for them to be distracted? Are they using their phones? Sleep is incredibly important. I would contend the majority of our children need more sleep, and their sleep patterns need to be looked at. We certainly want to have the discussions about helping and supporting, and certainly within your PTA, it's something we've talked about with Zone PTA. it's a place where you can continue to have those discussions. There was a question that came in through the YouTube in the chat where somebody is asking about math testing and some of the outside, I believe it's a math competition testing that exists. I do not have a specific answer right now to that question. I would encourage you, if you have a question about an opportunity for your child to participate in the AMC math test, to please contact the high school. Contact your child's teacher. You can always contact Dr. Morton at High School East or Dr. Perry at High School West. And just in general, if you have questions about an experience that your child is having, about something that's going on in school, starting at the school is always the best place. It's always the best source of initial information. If questions come to me or questions come to the board, one of the first things that I will always turn around and do is go to the principal and say, have you had a discussion? Have you been involved in discussion? It's always best to start at that level to see that things can be remedied, that things can be discussed, and that things can be worked out. So a question came in, because we talked about this in December, about the artwork. So the artwork that's behind me on the walls is proudly lent to my office and to Malberg from the students at Stockton Elementary School. So one of the things that we do each month, and this started back when Dr. Rushi was superintendent of schools, is we invite children from our schools to display artwork here at Malberg at the administration building. It truly is one of the big highlights that I have each month, is to see the artwork not only turn over, but even more so, we do an artist reception. I believe next Thursday evening I'll have a chance to meet with parents and the children artists whose work is being displayed behind me. It's always fascinating to see what the children can create. I have trouble writing my name the same way twice. To see what children can create with the support of their teachers, their imagination, and their ability to design it is always really enjoyable. So again, the artwork that's behind me on the wall today is from Stockton Elementary School. So thank you, children and art teachers from Stockton Elementary School. The use of social media has come up recently in discussion, and the way that information travels. Social media is an incredibly powerful tool, and it's incredibly powerful and can be used in positive manners and in negative manners. One thing that I want to encourage all of you to do is, if you have questions about the school district, I encourage you to submit the questions to the school district. If you go on the district website, all the way over on the right-hand side, in the top banner bar, and find the community section, there's a spot on there to submit a question. If you have a question, please submit it. We've had some questions that have come through. We will post the questions, we will post the responses. To the school district is always the best place. If you want an answer about what's going on in the school district, contact us. One of the challenges becomes is when debates rage online, sometimes the information that's online is not always factual. Just because something is posted on Facebook or something is posted out there does not mean that it is factual. I do have a correction about fair funding. Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. The fair funding meeting occurs on the third Thursday of the month. The third Thursday of the month. Here again at the Malberg Administration Building, beginning at 6 p.m. And if you'd like to participate in the discussion about how we are funded or how we are underfunded based on the state funding formula, please participate. Please come out and see the Fair Funding Committee. And again, you can do a search online, Cherry Hill Fair Funding Committee. There's a website that is active and engaged. There have been a number of folks throughout the community who have been engaged. Other ways to stay in touch with us, if you do not submit questions through the online question, is just going to our website. www.chclc.org is where our website is housed. There is an incredible amount of information. As for instance, you know that next year's school calendar is already posted on there? You can go on and see. You can see when we're going to be in school. You can see when the breaks are for school for next year. Please go on and look. You have the opportunity through our curriculum and assessment links that are on there to see what the scope and sequence of our classes are online through Rubicon Atlas, which is our online warehouse of curriculum and instruction information. Always a great place. Our meeting agendas are posted on there. There are regularly meetings scheduled for the Board of Education every month. So typically the first Monday and Tuesday of the month, the board subcommittees meet. On Monday at 6 p.m., it's the Policy and Legislation Committee, and at 7 p.m., it's the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. On Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, at 6 p.m., it's the Business and Facilities Committee meets, and at 7 p.m., the Strategic Planning Committee meets. Come out. They are public meetings. You're welcome to see and to listen to the discussions that are taking place. The second Tuesday of the month typically is the work session of the Board of Education. Again, it's a public meeting, but it's where you can hear and see the board talk about what's been discussed in committee, talk about what's being done in the district. And then typically the fourth Tuesday of the month is our full action meeting. It's when action takes place. Now, normally at each of the work sessions, there are some actionable items that take place and that go through. So I encourage you to come out, be a part of the process, see what we talk about, see what goes on, see the work that the 9 volunteer members of the Board of Education do, how they participate, and how they support our children and our school district. If you're not able to come out to the meetings, the action meetings are always live streamed. In fact, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, you can always find the live streaming of our action meetings the 4th Tuesday of the month on the YouTube channel as well. Miss a meeting because you have something else going on that evening, they are also available online afterwards to go back and watch. So certainly that is out there. So some books. Talked about books before. One of my favorite things is books and to read. Remember, I mentioned Cherry Hill Library. If you haven't been to your library, been to the library, get up to the library. Go see Laverne Mann. Go see the folks, the men and women who are staffing the library. There are exciting activities going on at all times. So I have a couple of books to share with you that we've been reading here in district and that we were referring to. One, parents, community members, if you have not read this came out last spring. I encourage you to get a copy. It's Grit by Angela Duckworth. Angela Duckworth is a world-renowned scholar, and she works on grit. She works right now over at the University of Pennsylvania at the Character Lab. Dr. Duckworth, Angela is also a graduate of High School East, and she's been very supportive of us and of our works. There are some great stories in here. There are some great ideas, some great processes to go and look at about how can we help to support our children to be stronger, to be more successful. I encourage you, read Grit. A couple of other ones. Mindset, Carol Dweck. A little bit drier at times in reading. An incredible amount of respect for Dr. Dweck and the work that she's done. But again, talks about where are you and how you approach the world around you. How do you approach your experience in the world? Do you have a fixed mindset or do you have a growth mindset? A great read. You can read different pieces. You don't just sit and read it straight through, but you can read different pieces. Another one, Paul Toff's work, How Children Succeed. Great book. As parents, I encourage every parent to read Paul's work, How Children Succeed. And for me, one of my favorites at this time of year, honestly, is Walden. A little bit of Civil Disobedience, but Walden, Henry David Thoreau. It's a great time of year. It's a little bit warmer today outside, but last weekend, the snow, the cold weather, it's great to curl up by the fire and to read and to think. Any book that you can pick up and read, regardless of the title, will encourage you to think. As adults, we all need to be role models for our children. We all need to be readers. We all need to expand what we're doing and how we're doing things. Mrs. Wilson, no more questions coming through? So folks, it's about 12:40. I want to thank you all for taking the time and for spending the time with Chief Monahan and with me. Thank you all for submitting questions. If you have questions, go to the website, send them in, put them in the community place in the question, or email them directly to Public Information, or send them directly to me if you would like. But stay involved, stay engaged. And again, if you have questions about something going on in the district, contact us at the district. We'd be happy to answer them. I'm grateful to Chief Monahan, to the men and women of the Cherry Hill Police Department, as well as to Chief Colby, the men and women of the Cherry Hill Fire Department, for their constant, continuous support of our district, for what they do on a regular basis in and out of our schools, for providing their services when the need arises. Thank you to everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again. Take care.